All right, let's dive into a topic that's always in the news, obesity. We've got this article from MedPark Hospital.
Obesity symptoms, causes, treatment, and prevention.
Yeah, and we're going beyond just the basics here, really trying to understand the complexities of it all.
It is complex.
So to kick things off, how does MedPark define obesity, right from the start?
They describe it as like having too much body fat.
Okay.
But, and they really stress this, that it can lead to a bunch of other health issues.
Yeah.
They specifically mention diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, even some cancers. It's
Right.
it's serious stuff.
Right. So it's not just about how you look, it's
Right.
it's about your health.
Exactly.
And that makes me think about diagnosis, like how do you even know? I know they use BMI a lot, but
Yeah, body mass index.
yeah, but the article seemed to say that's not the whole story.
Totally. They say it's a good starting point, like if your BMI is 30 or higher, that usually means obesity. But it's not perfect. Like a really muscular person, like a weightlifter or something.
Oh, yeah.
They could have a high BMI, but not actually be unhealthy.
That's true. That's true. So then the question becomes, well, what causes it, right?
Yeah. And the article, it doesn't give like a simple answer,
Right.
which makes sense. They say it's a combination of things. Genetics, your behavior, your metabolism, even hormones.
It's a whole web of things.
It is.
Let's maybe start with lifestyle choices, though, because I feel like that's something people feel like they have some control over.
Yeah, definitely. And the article focuses on, the usual suspects.
Yeah.
Unhealthy diet, too many sugary drinks, not being active enough.
It's funny how those are always like the top three, right?
Right.
But they make a big difference. What we eat, what we drink, how much we move.
It all adds up. It's about finding that balance. Calories in, calories out.
Yeah. But then there are things people might not think about, right? Medical conditions, for example. Their article mentioned a few.
Yeah, things like arthritis, Cushing syndrome, Prader-Willi syndrome.
Those are some serious conditions.
They are, and they can all contribute to obesity in different ways.
It's wild how, like, one thing can lead to another, and you might not even realize it.
Definitely.
They also talked about medications, right? Certain medications can lead to weight gain.
Oh, absolutely. Anti-seizure meds, some diabetes medications, antidepressants,
Oh, wow.
steroids, beta blockers. It's important to know about these side effects to talk to your doctor about
For
them.
sure. But wait, the article goes even further, right? Like into some surprising factors.
Oh, yeah.
This is where I got really interested.
Pregnancy, for instance.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they said it can lead to challenges managing weight later on because of, hormones and lifestyle changes.
Makes sense, yeah. Your body goes through a lot. It's not about blaming pregnancy, though, right?
No, not at all. It's about acknowledging the changes and finding ways to stay healthy.
Right, right.
Another one, and this might surprise you, is quitting smoking.
Wait, quitting smoking can cause weight gain?
Yeah, because nicotine actually suppresses your appetite.
Mm.
So when you quit, you might feel hungrier.
Oh, interesting.
Plus, some people replace the habit of smoking with snacking.
Wow. So even when you're making a positive change, there can be unexpected hurdles. What else?
Lack of sleep.
Sleep. How's that connected?
Well, when you don't sleep enough, your body produces more of the hormone that makes you feel hungry
No kidding.
and less of the hormone that tells you you're full.
So you're basically programmed to eat more.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Plus, you have less energy to exercise or make healthy choices when you're tired.
It's like a recipe for weight gain.
It can be. They also mention stress.
Stress, yeah, that makes sense.
And this is really interesting. The bacteria in your gut.
What? Your gut bacteria.
Yeah, it's called the microbiome.
Okay.
And scientists are finding that it plays a big role in how your body stores fat and uses energy.
So basically, different gut bacteria can make it easier or harder to stay at a healthy weight.
Exactly. It's like a whole ecosystem in there influencing your health. They're even looking at ways to, like, change the gut microbiome to help with weight loss.
Hold on, are we talking like probiotics and stuff?
Yeah, probiotics, prebiotics, even fecal transplants in some cases.
Fecal transplants, that's a whole other topic.
It is, but it shows you how much we're still learning about this.
Absolutely. Oh, and there was one more thing I wanted to ask about. Previous attempts to lose weight.
Ah, the yo-yo dieting effect.
Yeah, the article said that can actually make it harder to lose weight in the long run.
It can. It's like your body gets stuck in a cycle.
So it's not just about willpower, there's biology involved too.
Exactly. It's about understanding all the pieces of the puzzle.
Okay, so we've talked about all these causes, but we also need to address the elephant in the room, right? Like, what are the consequences?
You're right. The article talks about a lot of complications. It gets pretty serious.
So, like, what are the biggest risks?
Heart disease and stroke are major ones.
Right, right.
Obesity often leads to high blood pressure and cholesterol, and that puts a lot of strain on your heart.
So it's not just the weight itself, it's all these other things it can trigger.
Exactly. And type 2 diabetes is another big one.
Right, that's when your body doesn't use insulin properly, right?
Yeah, it becomes resistant to insulin.
So the sugar builds up in your blood.
Right. And that can damage your blood vessels, your nerves, your organs.
This is getting a bit heavy, I gotta say.
It is serious stuff. The article also mentions an increased risk of some types of cancer.
Cancer. Wow.
Yeah. And digestive problems, gynecological problems, sleep apnea, even osteoarthritis.
It seems like obesity can affect almost every part of your body.
It's a whole body issue for sure.
Well, this has been a lot to take in. I'm really glad the article also talks about what you can do about it.
Yeah, they have a whole section on prevention and treatment.
Okay, good. Give me some hope after all this. What do they recommend?
We'll dive into that more in the next part, but they talk about both lifestyle changes and medical interventions.
So there's a lot to unpack there.
There is. But before we move on, I'm curious, what stood out to you the most from all this?
Honestly, what really gets me is how many different things can contribute to obesity. It's not just about making good choices, there's so much more to it.
That's so true.
It really makes you think about how we approach this issue, We need to be more understanding, more compassionate.
I completely agree. It's about supporting people, not judging them.
Exactly.
Well said.
Okay, I think we're ready to move on to prevention and treatment in the next part. This is going to be interesting.
It is. You mentioned all the different things that can cause obesity.
It's a lot, right? It's like peeling back layers of an onion.
Totally. You think you understand it, and then there's something else.
Exactly. And speaking of layers, we were talking about the gut microbiome before. I really want to get into that. That was new to me.
It's a really hot topic in research right now.
So for people who haven't heard of it, what is the gut microbiome and how is it connected to weight?
Okay, so basically, it's all the bacteria and other tiny organisms living in our guts.
And there are like trillions of them.
Right. Trillions, yeah. It's crazy to think about.
That's a lot of roommates.
It is. And they're not just hanging out. They're actually really important for our health.
In what way?
Well, they help us digest food, they support our immune system, and they even play a role in our metabolism.
Oh, okay. So that's where the obesity connection comes in.
Right. Scientists are finding that the types of bacteria in your gut can affect how your body stores fat and uses energy.
So you could have bacteria that make it easier to lose weight or harder.
Pretty much, yeah. And that's why researchers are so excited about this, because it might be possible to manipulate the microbiome to help people.
Okay, now you're talking my language. How would you even do that?
There are a few different ways. Probiotics are one option, those good bacteria you find in yogurt and stuff.
Yeah.
Prebiotics are another. They're basically food for the good bacteria.
So like feeding the helpful bacteria so
Yeah.
they can thrive.
Exactly. And then there are fecal transplants.
We got to talk about those. I mean, that's some next level stuff.
It is. It's basically taking bacteria from a healthy person's gut and putting it into someone else's gut.
Like a bacterial transplant.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's still experimental, but it's being used to treat some gut disorders and maybe obesity in the future.
That's wild. It just shows you how much we don't know yet. But before we get too far down the microbiome rabbit hole, there were a couple other surprising factors I wanted to touch on, like quitting smoking. I still don't get how that can lead to weight gain.
It does seem counterintuitive, right?
Totally. So is it like a guarantee that you'll gain weight if you quit smoking?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Everyone's different. Some people do gain weight, some don't.
Okay.
And if you do, it's usually temporary.
So more like a potential side effect.
Exactly. Most people level out within 6 months to a year.
Still, I can see how that would be discouraging for people who are trying to quit.
For sure. That's why it's important to be aware of it and have strategies in place.
Like what kinds of things?
Focusing on healthy eating, getting regular exercise, finding other ways to manage stress.
So it's about having a plan, tackling the addiction and the potential weight gain at the same time.
Right. It's about supporting people's overall health.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, lack of sleep, you mentioned that too. What's the deal with that?
Sleep is so important for everything, and weight is no exception.
I know when I don't sleep enough, I feel like a zombie. But how does it actually cause weight gain?
So there are these hormones, ghrelin and leptin.
Okay.
Ghrelin makes you feel hungry, leptin makes you feel full.
Got it.
And when you don't get enough sleep, your body produces more ghrelin and less leptin.
So you're literally more hungry.
Exactly. Plus, when you're tired, you're less likely to make good food choices or have the energy to exercise.
Ugh, it's a vicious cycle.
It can be. So getting enough sleep is crucial.
Yeah, I'm hearing that loud and clear. Okay, now for the less fun part, the health risks.
Right, we talked about those a bit before. But the article goes into more detail. It's important to understand the seriousness of this.
So heart disease, that's a big one, right?
Huge. Obesity increases the risk of all sorts of heart problems, like coronary artery disease, heart failure, stroke.
Can you remind me how that works? I always hear about the connection, but
Sure, so obesity often goes hand in hand with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes.
right, we were talking about those earlier.
And all of those things damage your blood vessels and put stress on your heart.
So it's like a chain reaction. Obesity leads to those conditions, which then lead to heart problems.
Exactly. And the longer it goes on, the more damage there is.
That's scary. It really makes you think about the big picture. It's not just about how you look, it's about your life.
Absolutely. And type 2 diabetes is another serious risk.
Right, the insulin thing. Can you refresh my memory on that?
Yeah, so insulin helps your body use glucose for energy. But when you have obesity, your body can become resistant to insulin.
So it doesn't work as well.
Right. And that means the glucose builds up in your blood instead of going into your cells.
And that's what causes the damage.
Over time, yeah. High blood sugar can damage your blood vessels, nerves, organs. It's really serious.
Okay, that's a lot to process. What else does the article say?
It also mentions an increased risk of certain cancers.
Cancer too. Wow.
Yeah, and digestive problems
Mhm.
like acid reflux and gallstones,
Oh, yuck.
gynecological and sexual problems, sleep apnea, even osteoarthritis, the joint pain.
It seems like obesity affects pretty much every system in your body.
It really does. It's a whole body issue for sure.
We're almost out of time for this segment, but there's one more I want to talk about. Sleep apnea.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. And a lot of people don't even realize they have it.
So it's like a breathing problem during sleep, right?
Exactly. Your breathing stops and starts repeatedly.
That sounds terrifying.
It can be. And obesity is a big risk factor. Excess weight, especially around the neck, can put pressure on your airways.
Oh, so it's mechanical.
In a way, yeah. And it can have serious consequences. It increases your risk of high blood pressure, heart disease, stroke, even daytime accidents because you're so tired.
Wow. Okay, we've covered a lot of heavy stuff here.
We have. It's clear that obesity is a serious health issue with potentially life-threatening complications.
Yeah, no kidding. But the good news is there are things we can do about it.
Absolutely. There are ways to prevent and treat obesity, and by doing so, we can reduce the risk of all these problems.
Okay, good. I'm definitely ready to hear about some solutions. Let's dive into prevention and treatment in the next part.
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's talk solutions. We've covered a lot of ground, the causes, the risks, all that. But what can people actually do about it?
Well, the good news is this article from MedPark, it doesn't just leave us hanging. They have a whole section on prevention and treatment.
Okay, good. Give me the highlights. Let's start with prevention.
So they have these 5 key tips, and some of them might sound familiar. We've kind of touched on them already. But the first one, and this is no surprise, is regular exercise.
Exercise, gotta love it. Do they get specific? Like what kind of exercise?
Not really, which I think is good. It's more about finding something you enjoy and can stick with.
Right, because if you hate it, you're not going to do it.
Exactly. It could be walking, dancing, swimming, whatever works for you.
As long as you're moving. Right.
Yep, that's the key. And then, of course, healthy diet.
Okay, yeah, that one's a given. But do they say anything beyond just eat your vegetables?
They do. They talk about being mindful, paying attention to your hunger cues.
Okay.
And avoiding situations that make you want to overeat. Like, if you know you always snack in front of the TV,
Yeah.
maybe do something else instead.
Yeah, break those bad habits.
Exactly. It's
No.
about making conscious choices, not just mindlessly eating whatever's in front of you.
That's a good point. What else?
They also say to monitor your weight regularly. Not obsess over it, but just keep an eye on things.
Okay, so you catch any trends early on.
Right. And then I think this is really important. Consistency. It's not about crash diets or crazy workout routines. It's about making changes you can live with.
Sustainable changes, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so that's prevention. What about treatment? If someone's already struggling with obesity, what can they do?
The article talks about a two-pronged approach, combining lifestyle changes with medical interventions.
So it's not either, it's both.
Right. And the lifestyle changes are similar to what we talked about for prevention, like diet and exercise. But in a treatment setting, it's usually more structured, more individualized.
So you're working with a healthcare professional to figure out what's best for you.
Exactly. And then there are the medical interventions.
Okay, like what? I know there are medications and stuff.
Yeah, weight loss medications are one option. Some of them work by suppressing your appetite.
Okay.
Others change how your body absorbs nutrients.
So they target different parts of the process.
Right. And then there are endoscopic procedures.
What are those?
They're basically procedures that help you eat less, or absorbed fewer calories.
Oh, interesting. Less invasive than surgery, I assume.
Yeah, definitely. One example is a gastric balloon, where they put a balloon in your stomach to make you feel fuller.
Wow, that's pretty wild. And then there's surgery, right?
Yeah, weight loss surgery is another option. There are a few different types.
Like gastric bypass, things like that.
Exactly. They either restrict how much food you can eat, or they change how your body digests food.
That sounds pretty serious.
It is serious. It's usually reserved for people with severe obesity, and it's a big decision.
Yeah, you'd have to weigh the risks and benefits carefully.
Absolutely. And it's not a magic bullet, you know. You still need to make lifestyle changes.
Right. It's a tool, not a cure.
Exactly. Oh, and the article also mentions vagal nerve blockage.
What's that?
They implant a device that stimulates a nerve that controls hunger and fullness.
So it basically tricks your brain into feeling less hungry.
Kinda, yeah. It's a newer approach, but it seems promising.
Interesting. Okay, so we've got all these options, but one thing that worries me is keeping the weight off. I mean, I hear so many stories about people losing weight and then gaining it back.
Yeah, that's a real challenge. The article stresses that maintaining weight loss is just as important as losing it in the first place.
And how do you do that?
It's about making those healthy habits a permanent part of your life. You know, the exercise, the diet, all that.
Mm.
And it often means addressing the underlying issues that led to the weight gain in the first place.
So it's a long-term commitment, not just a quick fix.
Exactly. And it's important to have support, whether it's from family, friends, a therapist, a support group.
Yeah, you don't have to go it alone.
Absolutely not.
Okay, so just to wrap things up here, we've learned a lot about obesity. It's complex, it's influenced by a ton of factors, and it can have serious consequences. But the good news is there are things we can do about it.
That's right. There are ways to prevent it, ways to treat it, and ways to maintain a healthy weight once you've lost it.
And it's not about being perfect, it's about making progress.
Right. Absolutely. Every little bit helps.
So to our listeners out there, think about what small change you can make today to improve your health. Maybe it's drinking more water, taking a walk, choosing a healthier snack, whatever it is, just start somewhere. And remember, you've got this. We're all in this together.
That's right. We're here to support you.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into obesity. We hope you found it informative and empowering. And until next time, stay curious and stay healthy.